Welcome back as we continue with questions and answers with the President in the National Assembly. Before the break, we heard the President responding to the IFE's concern about South Africa's low ranking in the quality of education. A former trade unionist in the education sector and now COPE MP Willie Madisha also believed that education was deteriorating and that it had become even worse than during the apartheid system. He said scorecards for learners on literacy and numeracy was horrible. Even Mozambique outperformed South Africa.
Is it a deliberate strategy that you keep South Africans uneducated so that they can be dependent on government, so that they can be able to get grants, so that they can be able to vote for your party?
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
As I sit down, I say, you've got to fire the Minister of Education.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
Do you yourself have the capacity? If you don't have...
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
The reality is that there are more people at school today in South Africa more than they were during an apartheid time. There are more and better facilities in schools than they were at other times before. Now, if the member believes in his own mind that in fact is worse than apartheid, I don't know what time, when did he leave, whether he was living when apartheid was there.
Members, order.
Fact of the matter is that we have prioritized education in this country as priority number one. And we are spending more money on education. We are doing everything we can to ensure that South Africans are educated. And South Africans know that. They don't need convincing by anyone. They know that this government has prioritized education. We have created conditions. I was talking here that for the first time in this country, this government has identified poor schools for free fees. It has never happened before. Many children under apartheid, for your information, did not go to school if they did not have money. They go to school today. If you don't see that difference, then you live in another South Africa.
Charlotte Dudley of the African Christian Democratic Party agreed that there had been incredible strides and commitments in education during the past 3 years. But young people are worried about learners' low ranking in literacy and numeracy levels.
They're also worried about schools facing closure in Mpumalanga and the Western Cape. And what do you, Mr. President, want to say to young people about those closures?
Is the honourable member saying closures? Closures of schools?
Yes, yes.
Well, that is not acceptable. We can't be closing schools when we need more schools. Unless you have details as to why those schools are closed. What we are saying, we should create more facilities for education and therefore more schools, so that you could have more of our people receiving education. And therefore the young people must know that we would want to have more schools than to close schools. That is the message we would want to give to the young people. And we are working hard to improve education, to create facilities for education. That is the objective of this government.
With the time left, let's briefly recap on a question from the leader of the opposition, Lindwe Mazibuko. It deals with the granting of presidential remissions of sentences to offenders on National Freedom Day in April this year. She asked what criteria was used and also whether he had been informed how many of those who had been released had reoffended. The President pointed out that the granting of special remissions of sentences and other forms of amnesty was a worldwide practice by heads of state to commemorate special days. It was also an opportunity for offenders to turn their backs on crime.
It was to provide the sentenced offenders a second opportunity to behave, repent, and to become better and rehabilitated persons. It was meant to reduce and relieve congestion and overcrowding in correctional facilities, which currently stands at 34% above capacity. Overcrowding adversely affects the ability of any correctional system.
We have to end it right there. Our time is up. Join us again tomorrow, and until then, goodbye.